It's LaJune, Mind, Health, and Wellness with LaJune. Today's edition is Self Relationship. And again, I have my amazing three T's with me. So we are going to introduce Coach Tamika Lloyd. She's an author, speaker, integrative nutrition coach, relationship coach, transformational and mindset mastery coach. I just love you, girl. Next, we have Tina Foy, CEO Bella by Tina, podcaster, host of Beauty in Me with Tina, self care advocate for moms. And we have my amazing co host, Takia Johnson, real estate professional, career strategist, and life coach. Thank you, ladies, for being a part of this as we are wrapping up the 4 series and just how relationships from family, from friends, from intimate marriage, partnerships, situationships, however you want to call it, how they've impacted us in ourselves, how we've grown from it, what it looks like compared to what it used to look like. And just, the reflection and building relationship with God and just how different things now as you've gotten older, what that looks like. Because again, family has that number one, that's your number one learning example. A lot of people take from what their parents or family want in their lives, where you hear families want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, dentists, whatever, whatever. And that's not a true passion for the person, and the resentment starts to happen in their lives. So, Takia, what did, I know you and I have talked about, and also Tina talked about before we started this process of how family said you were supposed to represent in the workplace, where a lot of people, I've had clients that said that they had to be a certain way because they're around other people that's not the same shade as them, where they've lost themselves. So can you kind of talk about how your family experience has been impactful in your life, and some things you decided, you know what, I'm going to leave that there, it doesn't work for me right now?
Well, specifically, if we're speaking about the workplace, definitely the relationships I've had with in my childhood of that independence, definitely has shown up in ways where I'm not one to really ask for help. Um, Additionally, I think like most African American women, we're taught like you have to present a certain way, you have to be professional, you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way. Um, Sometimes we change up our voice or we try to tone down. Maybe I talk with my hands a lot. I'm more mindful of that in the workplace because I don't want to appear too expressive because of what I was taught growing up to kind of um, bottle myself up, if you will, or not present all the way because it may make someone else feel uncomfortable. I think I've carried that throughout adulthood, um, where I'm pretty much always in a position where I'm trying to make someone else feel comfortable. And I'm learning now that I have to make me comfortable. I have to be well with myself. I have to be happy with myself so that I can present 100%. And although I love people, I have to love me more to where I'm not changing who I am to make someone else feel comfortable, whether that's in with family, whether that's with my friends, in partnerships, in intimate relationships, and then with myself, making sure I'm being real with myself, 100% with myself. So I think that, and no fault to my ancestors, they were teaching us how to survive in environments that may not have understood who we were, or who we are. And I'm learning now, especially in today's climate, to present 100% who I am. And I'm hoping that I continue to grow and learn, that I continue to present that way in all my relationships, including in the workspace. So that's something that I would say that I've learned, is that we kind of have to bottle ourselves up to make others feel comfortable. And I'm definitely working on moving away from that mindset.
Tina?
I My experience was different than Takia. It was I'm from the islands, and the way I was raised was you were always dressed when you stepped out your door. Whether you were going to check the mailbox or you were walking down the street, you always had on clothes. You didn't wear pajamas out. You didn't have bonnets on your head. You came out presentable all times. So that translated to me being older. The only thing I could say is when I came to the U.S., it was I had to switch how I talked. I had to slow down my talking. I had to kind of dim down my accent so I didn't repeat myself 1,000 times, which translated into me speaking, as some would say, too proper. And they would think that I'm a white lady when I'm over the phone, but then when they see me in person, they have like this shock on their face. There's been several times before I started business where I can remember one time I went out for a bank job. I did 2 phone interviews, and we had a great interview. I got invited for in person, and the lady called my name, and I stood up. And as soon as she saw me, without her saying that, I could see her facial expression. I wasn't what she expected. She expected somebody completely different. I got the job, sure enough, but her facial expression told me that's not what she expected to see, which was completely fine. It was kind of a culture shock for me here in the States than from being back home. And I would say someone called it switch code. I've noticed a lot of my girlfriends will have a conversation personally and they're one way, and then when they get to work, they switch code into another way. So they can be presentable and be accepted, if not aggressive, not ghetto, and people don't feel so threatened by them. Mm-hmm. I do like Takia. I speak a lot with my hands, but I've never had the experience where people thought I was too emotional, too aggressive. They just thought it was the cutest thing, or they wanted to see my nails or something. So my experience as far as Takia's experience with speaking her hands was completely different. But I would say if you're from another country, you do have to switch your talking, your accent back. You have to tone it down a whole lot for people to be comfortable, or for them to understand you and not say you're talking too fast, or they don't understand you, or speak English, even though you're talking English. So that's my experience when it comes to the workforce.
Hey, Coach Tamika.
I can relate to both Takia and Tina. You know, growing up, my mother always said, you have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way. It was easy for me because I always went to white schools. So I was just being me. But you can't talk that one way and then you living in the projects, that'll get you beat up. So you had to switch. But for me, it was switching, in reverse. Because you get teased. Why you speaking like you white? And I was like, speaking like I'm white. My mother would be like, you're not speaking like you white. It's proper English. So don't listen to that nonsense. So that's where I had to turn it on and turn it off, is when I got back home. In relation to the work environment, the same thing Tina said happened to me. I went on these phone interviews, got the job, went there. The lady looked at me. She was like, you're African American? And to me, I'm like, duh, my name is Tamika. What else do you think I am? And she was like, well, I had a best friend named Tamika. She spelled it differently, but she was Japanese. So I just assumed you were Japanese. I was like, wow. And she was very upfront. She was like, well, I don't really like Black people, but you're probably the type that was Sue. So I guess I already hired you. That experience, I learned a lot. That particular woman became one of my best friends. She had this certain perception of Black people because she didn't live around Black people. The only Black people she knew about was the Black people she saw on the news. So she thought everybody was lazy. And she said that. She was like, Black people are lazy. I said, we only became lazy when we didn't want to be slaves anymore. So that's where that they're lazy. They don't want to work. No, we don't mind working. We want to get paid. So that was my experience. And since I look different, my hair is different. So back then, there weren't any other people but black and white. So I would get asked, well, are you Indian? Are you Native American? No, I'm black. You're not black. Your hair doesn't look like you're black. That's my hair. I don't know what to tell you. So it was, and that, for me became, okay, I'm not black enough. So when I was old enough to get extensions, I was getting extensions that looked like black hair because I wanted to be black enough. I was tired of people telling me that I talk white, and I went through a whole identity crisis. And when you see my sisters and my god sisters, like they're all white. So I was just like, and they had the hair I want. It was so odd growing up. But when I turned 40, I don't know what it was, but I just didn't care anymore. I'm like, this is who I am. These are my beliefs. I have to stop being what everybody want me to be. It's tiring. I can only be me. In the workforce now, I am only me, and they know that. And it just works out better for me because now I'm just at the I don't care what you think. I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. If you're uncomfortable because of what I'm doing, you need to check that within yourself. That has nothing to do with me. And what you think about me is none of my business. And once I adopted that mindset, my life became easier because then it wasn't switching on, switching off, or okay, I'm going here. So I just became me, like it or love it, just me. So
with Coach Tamika, I completely agree with the hair. The hair was and still is a big, big topic. Oh, what are you mixed with? Where are you from? Like you don't sound like you're from here. No, I'm not from here. I'm mixed with stuff, but I'm black. If you see me, you see my skin color, I am black. You look at me, you can tell I am black. So I don't get, what do you mean? Well, do you have any white in your family? My family is a rainbow. What do you mean? It's a full rainbow. What do you want? But I don't usually get it from other races other than black people. Weirdly enough. I have black women ask me, where do you get your installation done at? What are you talking about? Before I started going to my hairstylist, I didn't know what an installation was. I'm like, what are you talking about? Your hair? The one up my scalp? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, that's your hair? Yeah. What else is it supposed to be? Oh, I thought it was weed. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? Black people can't grow their hair long? Like, I'm lost. So yeah, I completely agree with Coach Tamika. That hair thing is a whole nother topic.
It's real.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because I would get that too. I would get that from black people, white people, and I tell Tamika all the time, doing live. Even I've been in the mall, and I told you, Tina, where I've had like Hispanic women didn't even know they were talking to me and speaking Spanish, and I'm like, not like I don't, because you see yourself as I'm black, so I'm in, they're speaking Spanish. And I'm in the mall, and this lady literally kept coming in my face, and I was so focused on something else where she finally tapped me, and I looked at her, I was like, yeah. She was like, oh, you don't speak Spanish? And I was looking like, am I supposed to? I said, no, I don't. And I've had two Spanish women say to me, oh, your mama not teach you, and like, oh, you think? Oh, I was like, no, she didn't. So I don't even go into details in regards to, well, I'm not. But back on the topic, my mom's the same way, where it was always we had to dress a certain way. And I remember coming home from Dallas, and I was flying back to Dallas, and I had a t-shirt on and some jeans and some flip-flops, because that's when they implemented that you had to take your shoes off. So I was trying to make my life easier. Mind you, she had never flown at that time. And she was like, "You wearing that?" Yeah, I want to be comfortable. I said some people wear pajamas. I'm not doing that, but yes, I'm gonna be comfortable. Well, no, you gotta dress up, and I'm not dressing up to get on a plane to get right back off. I'm going to be comfortable, but it is times where I like to dress up. It's times I like to dress down. And in her mind, in her growing up, it was you always had to look like the perfect baby doll. You had to dress a certain way. You had to present a certain way. And just seeing examples of, because I'm from a small town in Louisiana, so like Tamika, it's black and white. Um, we would go shopping and it would be, white people coming up asking, "Do you need help?" And I started seeing it where it was she never spoke up for herself because they would start following us and she would spend money in these places, but we really didn't have any choices because we didn't have too many stores. And seeing that type of behavior, I said to myself, I did not want to be that person who spent their money places that didn't appreciate me, that didn't understand I'm giving my hard earned money to your company to keep you afloat. You're seeing me as a nigga that is going to steal something from you when I'm clearly coming to the register, giving you my credit card, cash, or whatever form of payment. And I was like, I didn't want to be that type of person. I wanted to be a person who understood my value as a Black woman. And no matter where I shopped, I think I told Tina I went to this store and the Asian lady started following me around. A white woman came in. Wasn't the same case. And I was like, oh, I just wanted to see what they had in there. And I left because I was like, you're not getting my money. But it helped me to understand, the workplace. I live in DC area, so it's nothing but Black people. So to me, I work with all Black women, and it was a change because when I lived in Dallas, I was dealing with a lot of different races. So for me, it was a culture shock working in DC because I did go into the workplace and I had clients that was from poverty areas, and they would look at me and they're like, "What you know about my life? You don't know nothing about the struggle. You don't know nothing about the hood. You don't know nothing about, we don't have grocery stores and we're in a food desert." You absolutely right. I don't know. But I'm open to learning because your hardship and situations look different than mine. But at the end of the day, my goal was to help them. And when they started to understand I was there to serve them and not judge them, it started looking differently. And when I recently worked in a workplace where it was white people, because I've been working with Black people for so long, I'm like, I'm still myself, but I was uncomfortable as hell. Because I was like, oh my God, all these white faces, and I'm the only ink spot. I was uncomfortable. But I still remain being me because I believe that either you're going to respect me as LaJune overall. I'm not going to switch code just to make you feel comfortable. I'm going to still be me. You like it, you love it, you hate it. I really don't care. Just keep them paychecks coming in. So, and as far as the hand movement, I started doing that in acting because, if you're on stage or if you're on camera, you have to, if you can't use words, you have to use body language. And I can tell a lot of times people are looking at my hand movement and I'm like, I can't turn it off because my mindset is always like, oh, I gotta, yeah. So that's, definitely where that came from because I used to never use my hand. My hand would always be down and my body language would always be off because I wasn't in a good space overall. So speaking of that, I mean, we've all experienced a lot of stuff in life. And at what point was it for you guys that you realize enough is enough, because we as Black women, we experience so much trauma, depression, hardship, heartbreak, disappointment, where it was to the point where you said, you know what, I don't want to be this person anymore. Coach Tamika.
I think it started when I ended up in a hospital. So it was back Mother's Day, 2012. At that point, I weighed over 220 pounds. I stopped weighing myself, so I don't even know what I was at that point. And I went for a routine physical, and the doctor called me and was like, "You got to come to the hospital," because my iron was so low. And that experience was not a pleasant one. And that's when I had to start evaluating my life. You know, why am I eating things that I'm killing myself? I call it, I'm giving myself a treat, but I'm killing myself. Why is this happening? Well, because I felt like I couldn't be me. I had to be one way for this person. I had to be one way for the job. I had to do it. Was so much stress that I was handling my stress by eating. You know, I found out that, you know, I was type 2 diabetic. And I was like, oh, hell no. It wasn't going, no, that was my breaking point, because I've seen my family members with the insulin shots, with the metformin. That wasn't making them better. That was making them worse. And I did not want to go down that path. So I knew I had to do something drastic. And I made a vow at that point that I was going to learn all I can about what I like, what I didn't like, and who I was. I was going to change up my eating because I no longer wanted to eat dead food. I needed food that was going to provide me nutrients because, you know, I already experienced both my parents dying, and I did not want to die and have my daughter without a mother because I didn't know who I was, or because I couldn't get rid of a food addiction. And so that became my, you know, I always say, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you call me. Because if you're not sick and tired yet, then you're not going to go through what you need to go through to get better when it comes to your health, because you're going to latch on to the fad diets where you can still eat what you want to eat. So when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, call me. And that's why I came up with that tagline, because I was literally sick and tired of being sick and tired and ending up in a hospital. So unfortunately, for most people, something drastic has to happen in order for you to make a change. And that was my drastic moment. And once I started learning more about me, and once I, you know, started studying, you know, nutritional biochemistry and know what foods work for me, I mean, the weight came off like that. Type 2 diabetes, gone. High blood pressure, gone. It was just, it was so surprising. And that's why I became a coach, because I just thought it was a fluke. But that was my breaking point. I will never forget it. And I celebrated every Mother's Day, because had that not happened, then I probably would be dead, or on insulin, or just killing myself another way and still being miserable. So I always tell my daughter all the time, she saved my life when she was born, because I was out there just not being the nicest. And she saved my life again, because that's all I thought about, was not being there for my daughter. So sometimes when you know you need to make a change within your life and you can't do it for you, who can you do it for? Because I didn't feel worthy enough to do it for me. I was too addicted to do it for me. But when I looked at my daughter, who at the time was 11, I was like, well, then I got to do it for her. So when I wanted a cupcake, nah, I just thought about her life without me. So that was my breaking point, LaJune.
Tina.
I would say mine was my first son, when I had him about 3 months early. He was 28 weeks, 1 pound, 5 ounces. And that was my, okay, you know what? I can't make everyone happy. Because I used to kind of close myself down. If someone was mad, I would be the first to be like, you know what? I'm sorry, even though I didn't do anything. I was always, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I take on people's pain, or I used to, even though that wasn't my job. I was always trying to fix something. I was trying to save somebody. And when I had my son, I kind of blamed myself for him coming early because I was taking on all this stress, all this unnecessary stress for other people. And I figured out, even though it wasn't my fault, it was just, that was God's plan. It is what it is. At the time, I had to go through therapy. I had to have a lot of self-talk. I had to have a lot of prayer to figure out, what is it? What did I do that had him come early? Why he couldn't wait? Why I couldn't hold him a little bit longer? And after I realized that, you know what? You can't make everybody happy. Your child is first. I pretty much say bump everybody in so many words. Like, whatever you got going on, I'll be empathetic to you, but not my problem. My patience is for my kids. I don't have patience for anybody else. And I let everybody know. And I match energy. God forgive me. I pray afterwards. Sometimes I have to be a little extra, but I match energy. I usually say, you determine how I act. How you come to me is how I'm going to come back to you. You might go on the ground, but I'm going to go to hell. Literally. So I forewarn everyone, like, I'm the sweetest person that you will know. I could be your best friend. I'm very nice. I'm fun. I'm laid back. But the minute you cross that line, you're going to think the devil just hit me. Literally. My whole thing is to protect my energy from my kids because they feed off of my energy. They can tell if I'm not right. And if I'm not right, even though they may have had the best day, it can change their day. So I have to make sure at all times I'm in a good space. And if you interrupt that, we're enemies, literally. And this is just me being honest. And I tell a lot of people this. I'm like, oh, I don't see that. Don't interfere with my peace because that's interfering with my kids' peace. My kids are my number one. Whatever, I have to make sure they're happy at all times. They have their moments where they don't have a good day at school. But if they see mommy smile and we talk through their problems and we figure out what we can fix and what we can handle, they're completely fine. Because they know that they are kings. They carry themselves as young men. They talk proper. They don't have no slang. They dress like kids, but you would think they were little men walking around. They question me like they're my daddy, but I thought I was the mama. And I want them to be able to hold conversations. I want them to be able to hold adults accountable. Because if I'm wrong, I tell my kids, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I got a mistake. I called the wrong child's name, or I can't get you to me. I'm talking to you, though. And they understand that. So when an adult talks to them, they can question them. My youngest went to summer camp last summer, actually, and they had a new teacher there. And the teacher, for whatever reason, would not call him by his name. Hey, you child. And he's like, my name is Ken. And she's like, it don't matter what your name is. I said, don't answer her. He's like, you know what? It does matter what my name is. My name is Ken Faust. My parents have named me that. You call me that, or I'm not answering. And he came in the car and he told me, and I talked to the director. I'm like, my child has a name. It's on his birth certificate. It's what we call him. Is that if she called him or she could be replaced. And my kids know that. Don't be disrespectful. Let mommy do that. But you stand up for yourself. Adults are not always right. And with me being able to do that for myself, it helped me teach my kids to do the same thing. To question things and not just go in line and be a follower. I want them to be leaders and be direct. Like, know your line. You're a kid, be respectful. But you also make sure that an adult respects you. You question. If something seems off, be like, why is this? Why do I have to do this? Are you sure? Have you spoken to my parents? If you have not, you need to call my parents so I'm not moving. And this has saved my kids a lot of headaches, saved me a lot of, we're going to keep it politically correct, a lot of time from having to hurt people's feelings because my kids were able to correct them and I was able to handle the situation before it got worse. And if you can be a advocate for yourself, you can teach your kids how to be an advocate for themselves. They can see you as the leader that they need to be. and it doesn't make them want to follow when other kids are doing things they're not supposed to. Because my kids would quickly tell another child, "That's not right. Why are you doing that? You know you can get in trouble for that, right?" And that's what I want. And I had to teach myself that my energy, the way I move, have to reflect what my kids will want to do. I'm a boy mom, but it's still teaching them to be direct, to stand firm in what they're doing, what they believe, admit when things are wrong, admit when they're at fault. Mommy can admit, daddy can admit when they're wrong. So I need to do it too. Don't lie, tell the truth. It may hurt some people's feelings. Don't get me wrong. Because there's times that they tell me things and I'm like, did you have to say it like that? Could you not say it another way? Like, mommy, that's not cute. Okay, I'll change. So that's what I want. So for me to be able to do that and to see my boys do that, it makes me happy, and they know that I made the right decision to correct myself and change how I responded to things. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Takia.
I think that I recognize, or there was a change when I recognized after my grandmother died that I was pouring into everybody's cup and nobody had really poured into my cup. Um, I'm a really hard worker. I love my career. I spend a lot of time doing it. And sometimes um, well, back then I would find myself getting lost in it because I'm in a much different place now. I do not get lost in my career, but back then I did. And if the job needed something, I was there. No matter what time of day, I was going to be there. I probably neglected my family for the job. And then my grandmother had gotten really sick, and we knew that she was going to pass away. But it was like the end of the month and I had all these reports due. So, I had told my husband at the time, like, okay, I'm going to go to work half day and I'm going to get all these reports done. And then, I'm going to get ready and we can drive down and then we'll be there in the morning. I had to come from Northern Virginia to North Carolina, is where we were driving to. Um, and I stayed up the night before, packing all the kids' clothes, like getting everything together. So I was in a situation where I was giving to my job. They weren't giving anything back. They knew that my grandmother was sick and that she probably wouldn't make it. And nobody said, "Kid, don't worry about those reports. Like, go and take care of your family, take care of you." And then I was at home washing clothes, packing clothes. So nobody at home was saying to me, "Hey, don't worry about it. Let me wash a load of clothes and fold it for you." So everywhere where I was should have gotten support, I did not get support. Came home after working half day. I said, I'm going to lay down across the bed just for like 30 minutes to close my eyes because my ex was not big on driving. So I knew I was going to have to drive too because they were not going to likely drive. So I laid down for like 30 minutes and then I woke up and it was the next morning. So nobody woke me up. And I woke up in a panic and I'm like, oh my God, we have to go. We have to go. And I was like, oh, well, we could tell you were tired. We just thought maybe you'd like to sleep, which was great. Um, Drove 5 hours to North Carolina, pull up to find that I knew when we parked and I was getting out of the car and my grandmother said something was not right. And my family started walking towards the car. So long story short, I missed it. I did not get to say bye to her because I was focused on family, getting clothes together. I was focused on job. Um, so I was mortified. I was so upset. To this day, I'm like upset. Like I did not get to say bye to my grandmother. I chose work and I chose, getting some clothes together as opposed to saying, listen, we know she could die at any time. Let's just go. Um, After I got back, it was really like a turning point for me to realize like you have to stop and recognize that nobody's pouring into you and you're not even pouring into you. You're not standing up for yourself. You're not saying, I need this support and I need this help. So I actually ended up quitting my job. After I got back, I gave them like a 2-month resignation. Like I'm leaving in 2 months and I'm going to go to pursue my PhD. So I went back to school full time. And I said, let me try to just refocus. I really felt empty, very, very empty. Almost nervous breakdown empty. I remember calling my mom saying, hey, you guys are going to have to put me somewhere, but it needs to be somewhere where I can let myself out whenever I want to. I don't want anybody keeping me. That not being able to say bye to my grandmother really took me like all the way to that place. And I think over that year that I was not at work and just had a place of just some quiet and some reflection, doing a lot of reading. I was studying for my PhD, and I realized that I was so unhappy in so many different aspects of my life, but it was because I did not know who I was anymore. I knew who I was as a mother, and I felt like I did a really good job there. I tried my best as a wife, right? So I definitely was trying to be that person and what I thought that represented for my husband at the time. And then I know at work I was knocking it out the park. Like I was meeting all the goals. I was exceeding the goals. I was the one that everybody came to. But I didn't know how to show up for myself at all. I didn't even know what my hobbies were anymore. I recognized that I was that person that when things got tough and it should have been time that I was reflecting and pulling into myself, I would just create another task or to do or a goal. And I would find that to focus on as opposed to me. So that having that quiet time was so important because it made me step back and realize like, hey, there's a lot of stuff falling apart around you, and it's not necessarily because those aren't manageable things. I mean, it's life, and those things happen. Your grandparents die, your marriage isn't always going to be great, your kids are going to act up. The problem lies within yourself and the relationship you have with yourself, in that you don't know who you are anymore, and you're looking for the job to tell you who you are or to validate you in some way. You're looking at motherhood to validate you. You're looking at your spouse to validate you. You have no hobbies that you can say, this is what I like to do. Everything is attached to a goal or a task. So I think that time was really good. I spend a lot more time now focusing on like, hey, just doing things that I like to do and being myself and recognizing when my cup is empty, saying I'm not giving anything to anybody else. I'm going to fill my cup, or telling other people's how to show up for me. Like, you're in my life, you're a loved one. This is how I need you to show up for me. These are my expectations of you. And this is how I need you to pour into my life, as opposed to just expecting them to know how it is that I need to receive from them. And then knowing how to fill it up myself, because I've said I'm a very independent person, so I know how to fill up my own cup now. I enjoy some solitude. I enjoy quiet time. There's times where you may call me and I don't pick up my phone because I may be binge watching shows or whatever because I need that quiet time. Um, I like to shop. And sometimes I'll just push the basket around and just put stuff in the basket, and then I'll circle around the store a couple of times and I'll take it all out, and I'll leave with nothing. And sometimes I'll leave with some stuff. But I know that I need those moments where it's just me, and going for walks, or exploring with clothes and dressing or my hair or whatever it is. Taking time to just set a doctor's appointment and tell my job like, no, I'm not, I have these appointments on these days and I'm going to do that. It doesn't matter what meeting is scheduled. I'm not rescheduling what I know is best for me. So during that time, my blood pressure was sky high, my cholesterol was high. And I'm 46, and I was finding myself in my early 40s, like starting to struggle with some stuff that really was a symptom of everything else that I was going through. So just, really honing in on me, understanding me better, loving on me better. I was picking with June yesterday, and I said, I'm going to date myself, because I mentioned yesterday that, I'm out of a relationship, and I'm like, I'm going to take myself out on a date. And like, so just doing little things like that to just love on me, get to know me, understand what my hobbies are and what makes Takia tick, and being able to articulate that to the people in my life that I love.
I love that. I can say for me, man, I've had two times. Going to Bali, I can say did save my life. Because I was in a dark place in 2018. I was going to commit suicide. Financially, I wasn't in a good place. I didn't have a good relationship with money because money was introduced to me at a young age in a for to be touched on sexually. Um, Lost my dad at such a young age and hadn't dealt with all this stuff. And I'm a 6.5-year old trying to operate as a grown ass woman, and I haven't healed, I haven't dealt with any of this stuff. And I'm trying to make everything and everybody else happy. I'm just trying to busy myself all the time. I was always going, 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 going. And I was telling Tamika yesterday, in 2010, I had 10 jobs. I kid you not. And my friends would joke and be like, girl, you Jamaican? Like, why you got all these jobs? Because I'm making money. I just can't keep it. It's just literally going, going, going. And I'm supposed to be the happiest part in my life. I get my master's degree. My ideal of seeing my master's, this ideal job. My relationship wasn't going great because that was my first time living with somebody and didn't know how finances impacted a relationship. And it truly did. And the communication wasn't there. And I was doing Lyft one day and I was just like, I'm just going to crash the car. And I don't even know, literally my mom popped in my head and I'm not even that close with my mom. I love her. But the thought was how devastating this would be that you killed yourself to your mother. How would she feel about that? And that literally was like, I love her. I don't ever want to hurt her, even if we're not close. I would never want to hurt her in that way. And my friend invited me. I get the job, and it's not the job I want because I'm only making 50,000, and we know how much masters cost the degree in Estelle. And I was just like, I had to take the first job because me and my ex getting in arguments, and I'm like, I gotta take the first job, and I'm still doing Lyft, I'm still doing Uber Eats, I'm killing myself, I'm trying to make everything perfect in the relationship. I'm gaining weight, I'm getting bigger and bigger. The way I was dressing wasn't me, and I was losing myself. I was losing myself bit by bit. I didn't have any chronic health issues, but my health issues always is my gut. So if I'm not, in a good place, I can't go to the bathroom. I always get gastritis. And I was just like, well, what, irritable bowel syndrome. I didn't know what was going on. And my friend invited me to go to Bali. And I was like, I don't have the money for this. Because I'm paying all this stuff. I'm trying to, still stay afloat because I owe back debt. And God made a way for me to be able to go. Every month I was making this $500 payment to go to Bali. And my friend was like, I got the flight. And I learned so much about myself. You think when you lose a loved one, you never incorporate that as abandonment issues. You just think like, okay, my family died. And I knew as a kid when he died, I needed to be in therapy. But again, I'm from a small town in Louisiana. They ain't putting kids in no therapy for that. And just our community, we don't incorporate that at that time. And I felt the healing. I wrote my book and I was such in a better place. And then life got to life in again. And it was like, okay, God, what are you trying to teach me in this point in life? And I had called Tamika. I was taking a walk one day and it was slowly getting to that rock bottom stage. I had sold my car, clients was kind of breaking off and I had let clients go because we weren't a right fit. And I was walking one day and I started crying. And I'm not emotional. And I couldn't stop crying. It was scaring the hell out of me. I couldn't stop crying. I'm texting Tamika. I was like, oh my God, Tamika, I'm crying. I can't stop crying. I don't know what to do. And she was like, you got a lot going on. You carrying a lot. And at that time, I literally had lost one of my good friends. And she was like, you got a lot going on. You are carrying so much. And I was like, I just want to stop crying. And I couldn't. And I'm, huffing and I'm puffing. And I'm like, I just can't stop crying. I can't stop crying. I'm like, God, why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening? And it just kept, and I had called my then friend who's a therapist. She was like, are you, do you feel suicidal? And I was like, I don't feel suicidal. I just can't stop crying. And she was like, you got a lot going on. And I'm hearing what they're saying to me, but I'm not ingesting it, because to me, my focus was, why am I crying? Why am I crying so much? And tried to find a therapist. I went through 5 of them. Tamika was like, girl, she was like, you going through it. And I was like, yeah. So I just started working with coaches, and truly God blessed me with a lot of people that offered me free services during that time. Then 2023, my health just, another thing was I get a sinus infection, I get pneumonia, and I had a collapsed lung. My health just kept declining. I had to move in with a then friend, and things just did not work out there, because I saw this person as my sister. I've known her for over 20 years. And just the disappointment and heartbreak. And I'm, trying to be that person that's like, well, this person is letting me stay at their house. And when you feel like somebody is giving you something, you feel like it's okay for them to treat you a certain way. And it got to a point where I'm mad at God. I'm in therapy. My therapist is like, why are you mad at God? And I was like, well, I've been mad at God since, he let my cousin molest me, since he took my dad from me, since he allowed all this stuff to happen. And she said, do you think that God is trying to prepare you for something that you're not able to hear because you're so caught up what he's taken from you? But what have you gained from those experiences? And I couldn't see it at that time, because I would, I'm screaming. It got to a point, I got to a deep depression again about my dad. She told me to write a letter. That it really helped, because I could really hear him speaking to me. And it just, just seeing the outpour of loved ones when, I did hit 100% rock bottom, showing up for me, because I had lost myself. I had no, motivation, encouragement, things I would try and be a no, 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 no. And I had to look at the tongue is a powerful thing, as we spoke yesterday. And it was, you said you didn't want to do this no more. So God is saying to you, you said you ain't want to do it. So why you keep applying for it? Why you upset when you get these no's? You said you ain't want to do it. And I had to understand, you did say that. You're about to elevate. Everybody can't come with you. You cannot, this friendship, okay, it was great. You two are in 2 different places now. You're not the same people anymore. And once I started seeing how people were pouring into me and encouraging me and motivating me, and it was like, you do that for other people, why can't you do that for you? Why are you not showing up for you? Why are you not showing that you love you? Why are you not showing that you are enough? Why are you not showing that asking for help, it's okay? Why are you not being okay with releasing people who no longer serve you? And I'll joke with Tamika and my therapist all the time, because Tamika will give me a suggestion or whatever. And I appreciate Tamika, because it was never a time where people would give me suggestions, they would get mad at me. But Tamika understood, you ain't ready. I can put it out there, but you're not ready yet. But when you're ready, you'll do it. And I'll say something to her, and I'll be like, "Remember when you said da da da?" And she'd be like, "Yep, I said I did it." And she'd be like, "I know you would, but you wasn't ready when I told you." And I appreciate that because oftentimes we get upset when we tell people stuff and we see it for them, but we don't understand they're not ready. And we get so like, well, you stupid, you ain't doing da da da. No, they're not ready. So I had to understand when I was ready, not when somebody else was ready for me, that I would do it and I would start pouring into me more and I would start showing up for me more. So that was for me the breaking point of I got to show up for me. I got to do better for me. It's not about anybody else and how much it hurts. It's about building that relationship with God because I didn't have that relationship. Building that relationship with money because for money, for me, as soon as I got it, I was trying to get rid of it because, hey, it wasn't of value to me. I didn't see the value besides it paid bill, it put clothes on my back, and it helped me get what I wanted. But you need money in order to live and exist. And I didn't understand it because it was introduced in such a negative way. So that was the two breaking points for me where I had to realize I didn't want this anymore for me. And I needed to do better, not for anybody else, but for LaJune, to love LaJune and show up for her and appreciate what God has introduced because us doing this is a testimony for so many men and women who are battling with who they are, self relationships, and trying to we hear the saying of I'm gonna stick by my man or I'm gonna stick by my woman or whoever I'm with, but they don't know who they are because they're trying to find their parents in these people. They're trying to find whatever to make them happy where they're not seeing them. And I didn't want to be in a place where I didn't see me anymore. So with that being said, what was it for you ladies where you guys said that, you know what? Because I feel like for me, even after I wrote my book, and I've had people say to me, well, you're supposed to be healed and your trauma's supposed to be over with. Trauma, stuff will always come up for you. Something will always trigger you. And the thing of it is, yeah, I release my trauma, but I'm still and always will be releasing something. Healing doesn't happen overnight. I wish it did. That would be so awesome. So for you ladies, what do you think it is for you guys that you feel that you need to continue to work on to become a different, and if it's in career, if it's in relationship, if it's in with your kids, what is it that you feel that you need to continue to grow in certain areas? Because I think most people look at the outside of us and see, oh, their life is perfect, but they still don't understand we still have struggles. We still have things that we are working to evolve on. If it's, a certain career that you want, or your business isn't going the way you want to. Takia.
I think for me, it is understanding that relationships, regardless of who they're with, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's with your kids or with your best friends or your significant other, relationships are a reflection of who you are as an individual and how you feel about yourself. And when you're in a relationship with someone, it is very much like them holding a mirror up to you. And it's a reflection, how you interact with them is a reflection of how you're doing within yourself. So it's understanding that if there are communication issues in the relationship, that I have to look at me first. I have to look at me. I have to examine myself and how I'm showing up in that interaction. Um, and to understand that there's always going to be growth. We're ever changing. Tamika mentioned yesterday, like I think I had asked her a question of how do you still grow as an individual, but as a partnership as well. And it's always going to be both, no matter what. It's your planet next to each other. I love to garden, and there are certain plants that you don't plant as individual. They do better in partnerships, or with, you, if you plant one tree, you need to plant a second in order for it to truly grow well. They're growing as individual trees, but they grow best together. So no matter what environment I'm in, it's really reflecting on myself and understanding that every situation that presents itself is reflecting off what I'm giving it, and to see myself in it and to grow from it. So that's what I would say that I'm still gauging from, um, just growing and learning and being in situations where, you're right, turmoil is always going to present itself. Life is always going to life, is we're always lifing. So as we continue on this journey, it's really for me, just making sure that I'm learning everything I need to learn along the way, and to recognize when situations present themselves where it's an opportunity for me to grow.
Love that. Tina.
I would say I'm still learning how to get rid of perfectionism. Like, I've come a long way, but it's still a work in progress. It's still a daily process. It's one of those where I have to have self talks, like, okay, yeah, this is bothering me because it doesn't look the way I expect, but I need to move on from it. It's good the way it is. If it's not broken, why fix it? It's one of those things that I have to remind myself daily, because, again, society sees you on the outside as perfect, but internally you go through a lot, and you try not to show it on the outside. So you figure everything else a part of life, whether it's personal or business, should be perfect too, even though there's really no such thing. There's close to being perfect, but there's no such thing as perfect. And trying to make sure that I don't rub that off on my kids, and let them know there's a very, very thin line between imperfection and perfectionism, and how to kind of maneuver through both. And I would say my other thing would be not taking in people's feelings too much. If someone is crying, I would start crying because I can feel their pain, but learning how to separate the two. I'm pretty good at it now, just because I know my kids come before anybody else. But there's times where I kind of revert backwards. I'm like, wait, hold on. That's not your problem. You can listen, you can lend an advice, but that is not your problem to take in. So that is a work in progress. I'm pretty close to a pro, but again, there's still triggers that trigger me where I start to take it in. And I have to remind myself, don't do that. That you can help in other ways. You don't have to take it in yourself. So that is definitely a process that is still being worked on.
Coach Tamika.
I think for me, it's remembering to stay in the moment. For me, I was always thinking about the past mistakes. I was always thinking about the death of my parents. I was always thinking about what went wrong, not realizing that here I am, I'm living in the past that's affecting my present, which is going to affect my future. So being present and trusting God, I know where I want to go most of the time. And once I know it, I have to trust the process, but I have to work in the moment so that I can make that goal a reality. And that is one of the most difficult things for me to do, because I'm always planning ahead, or I'm always thinking back. And so now, when I'm here, I'm listening to you guys. I'm not thinking about, oh, like, what's for dinner later? No, I have to be in it. When I'm with my grandsons, when I'm with anyone, it's the same way. And the old me would have thought that I was multitasking. Yeah, I'm doing this task, but I'm still thinking about the next. No, that's not multitasking. That's you not fully being in the moment, because what you create in the moment is what's going to get you what you want in the future. And perfectionism, like Tina said, that's one too, because I'm always back to how I was raised. You are black and you a woman, so you got to be bigger, better, this, and I know, being a child of God, our essence is perfect, but we are imperfect beings. So I've learned to take chances and do progress over perfection, because I wouldn't do anything until I knew. So, but definitely being in the moment. I love waking up early. I like Takia said, if I'm getting text or phone calls, if it's not that time, I'm just there. Yes, I'll get to my phone later. Don't worry. I'll get to the phone. So I'm up early, but sometimes I don't answer a message until 9, 10 o'clock. And they like, you just got up? No, but doing me,
Mhm.
so that being in the moment. That's one of my mantras. When as soon as my alarm goes off, don't forget to be in the moment, because I can't get this back. I can't get that time back with the kids. And I feel like I missed that a lot when the children were growing up, because I was so focused on career or money, and now they're grown. And had my grandson yesterday, and he was just as happy as he could be on the floor, and I'm on the floor, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, I can do this and just be me and him and forget my daughter for 2 or 3 hours a week. Like as kids just got that, they laugh at anything. He's being silly, and then I'm being silly because I'm usually serious. And I'll give him a face, and he goes, "Don't make that face, Mimi. Be happy." And I'm just like, "Oh." So it's just moments like that I am so grateful for, because the old me, he'd be doing that stuff, and I'd be like, and I'd be on the phone or I'd be reading, and I wouldn't have gotten that blessing. So that's what it is for me, LaJune.
I would say for me, I'm still working on releasing things, people past that don't serve me. Because, lately when you have something in your mind, you will see it all the time. I had a Lexus and it got repossessed last year, and I keep seeing the same type of model Lexus pass by. And it puts you, and I know it's the devil, because it puts you in a place of regret, and you start getting upset, and you like, well, how the hell I could have been doing this, and then I would have had the money, da da da. And then it's like, you didn't. It's in the past. Let it go. It no longer serves you. Now, what are we working on? So the thing of releasing, the thing of asking for help. Um, me and Takia are the same sign. We are Capricorns, and we do not like asking for help. And I saw this video saying a Capricorn will try to find every avenue possible before they will ask somebody for help. And I have to be okay with it, because sometimes I don't have it or I can't do it, and I have to ask for help. And I asked Tamika for help last week, and it took me the longest to ask her for that help, because I was so mad at myself. And I was just like, I really don't want to do it. And it was like, oh, if you don't do it, you ain't got it. So you might as well suck it up and be a woman and ask her for help. And I was like, okay. And I was so mad at myself that whole day. But I was like, you are able to return it. So why are you upset with yourself? So I have to continue to work on giving myself grace and understanding that God put people on this planet to help one another, and not me just being that person that feel like I got to help the world, because I need help too. So still working on that, asking for help, taking myself out of situations, because I was at a gas station. I saw a homeless guy in a trash can, and I asked him, was he looking for food? And he said, yeah. But I was like, I really don't want to get him this unhealthy food because that was me. It wasn't about him. And I said to myself, oh, it's not about you. So take you out of it. This man is hungry, and go in this gas station and get him some chicken because he probably hasn't eaten. So that's another thing, is working on what I would do for me is not always about somebody else. And if you're genuinely giving somebody something, it's not about how it would look for you. It's about your purpose of making sure you're serving with a purpose and how it serves them. So those are the things I would say I am still working on. Always and forever healing and evolving. It was something me and Takia was talking about, friendships and, dating. And something she said, she's been saying a lot of stuff to me where I'm like, you are, oh my God, you're absolutely right. We were talking about, your actions lining up with your words. Because I was telling her people who have approached me about wanting a relationship, and I'm like, I'm telling them I'm friends, I just want to be friends. And she said to me, but are your actions reflecting that? Because if you hanging out with this person all the time and you're making this person a priority, in their mind they're like, oh, we about to be together, but you saying no. And so that helps, is being mindful of that my actions and my words are in alignment, because sometimes we don't see that because we see it one-sided. We don't see it from the other person's perspective. So thank you, Takia, for that. So those are the things I am continuously working on. And again, giving yourself grace, forgiving yourself. I think forgiveness is really big, because that's one thing I think we as Black women, we don't do, because we're trying to be wife, boss, homemaker, partner. We trying to do everything and we carry so much, but just giving yourself grace in a few minutes, I think that's really, really big. So as we are close to wrapping up, I thank you ladies for sharing your story, sharing your growth process, because growth is always, always, always happening. Who you were in a second, you can be somebody different in a few minutes. And I think people need to really start understanding you are never going to be the same person. There's always going to be something that's going to change you. Your breath is going to be different. Your vision going to be different. You can wake up in the morning and have a pain that you didn't have when you went to sleep. So understanding that, I think that is definitely important. So Tina, what would you like to close for the people?
I would say grow every day. Be a better person every day. Give yourself grace every day. And remind yourself you're awesome.
Coach Tamika.
I would say don't forget about you. Take time for yourself every day. Sit in quiet, because if you're asking for help from the Creator, how you expect to get it if you're not sitting in silence to receive it? So be in the moment. Take that quiet time for yourself. Just know everything is temporary. If you are in a bad spot today, don't mean you're going to be in that bad spot tomorrow. Take that time for you. It's not weakness, it's strength.
Takia.
I would say reflection, making sure that you're looking at yourself in all situations, and recognizing how we're showing up, and making sure we're taking advantage of the growth opportunities that the universe presents to us every single day, if we are aware that it's there. So in line with Tina, just, growth, and more growth every day. As you mentioned, every second we are changing. So, making sure we're taking the time to really, truly focus on ourselves and see that change, and reward ourselves for the growth that we've already accomplished. So it's truly an accomplishment to be able to take the time, sit back, see where you were, see where you are now, and congratulate yourself. Give your own self a pat on the back.
I would say for me, definitely growth, definitely reflection, because if you look at where you were at a certain point and where you are now, it may not be as big as you want it to be, but if it's a small progress, give yourself grace and appreciation for that. Because I think for we as women, everything has to look so big and so perfect, where we feel like we have to give ourselves 30 minutes to work out and 30 minutes to meditate, or 30 minutes for X, Y, and Z, or an hour. But sometimes that 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minutes can go a long way. And be okay with taking that time for yourself and setting boundaries for yourself. I think that's a big thing. Continue to set boundaries if you're not setting boundaries, because I think me and Tina on her live, people were talking about going to family members' houses that they don't really like, or friends they don't really like anymore. Being okay with saying, yeah, I'm not coming. And if you do go, lessen your time there, and being okay with that, because this is ultimately your peace. This is ultimately your time and energy that you will not get back. So being okay with that. And I think that's the main thing, is in setting self boundaries, because you just ate one piece of cake or had a cookie. You don't need no more. So setting self boundaries with yourself. You don't have to eat the whole bag if you full. And your plate, you went to some nice restaurant, have that as leftovers. It's okay. You don't have to eat it all at once. So I think self boundaries are really huge, especially with our healthcare system and what's going on right now. So let's become healthier. So can you ladies tell people where they can find you, for, because you guys dropped some gems today and they may need some help and resources. Coach Tamika.
You can find me at coachtamika.com.
Do not send her anything on social media, because she is not going to respond. So, yeah.
It's a living, man. I can't be on social media. Every time I go on there, and I done wasted an hour, and I be like, see, this is why, because that content be so good and addictive. So, no. I'll be on Tina's Instagram like, oh, what's going on over here? She always got some good stuff over there.
Yeah, she does. And
you're the first person that pop up for me.
Tina, where can people find you for beauty tips, just self-improvement tips? And her beauty line is dropping in April, so I just had to throw that out there.
They can find me on IG and TikTok and Blue Sky and Red Note. There we go. At Beauty and Me with Tina on all platforms. I'm usually on all of them. So
Takia.
You can find me on pinpointyourpath.com.
All right, and you can find me at LaJuneSingleton.com. Hey, let's make this year great, and let's stop with the excuses again. It's not going to happen overnight, because trust me, I'm still a work in progress, and it's not easy. But if you don't get the resources necessary, you will stay stuck in where you don't want to be. Trust me, I know, been there, done that, and don't ever want to get there again. So if that's you and you're ready to move forward, send me a DM, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, or you can reach me directly at LaJuneSingleton.com. Until next time, you guys be blessed. I thank you ladies so much. Love you all, and thank you all for being a great part of my day and my life. So thank you.
Thank you.